Welcome to the Healing Broken Families podcast. I'm Barbara Pointe, and each week I host healing conversations around divorce, parental alienation, and high conflict personalities. Today I am delighted to be sitting down with Amrit Singh, and he is a high momentum life coach. He works with strategies based on his extensive knowledge of meditation, habit development, and spirituality. And Amrit has been coaching human beings for over 25 years in Germany, India, and Mexico. And I think that's why I felt very led to have him on. Welcome.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited.
Beautiful. You have a lot to share with folks, and we're going to have a very open conversation. And I'd love to just know about some what you have to share. I'd like to know about some daily spiritual practices that we can put in place in our lives to heal. And I felt intuitively led to ask you about meditation because so many of us are a little bit shy or feel resistance when it comes to creating a daily meditation practice. And you know what? I noticed that you said it is important to have discipline when it comes to our daily spiritual practice. So I've never done this before. Like, it's really an open conversation where we invite the flow in, and I invite you to just take the lead.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, so many ways we can go, but I'm super excited about the questions you asked because it's right along the alley of things I love to talk about. So maybe we just start with meditation, and you already put it so well. You said to develop a daily meditation practice. I think so many people get caught up in this thing of thinking, I need to be able to meditate. I need to be meditating, and then they sit down and they sit and they try to meditate and they can't. And it's this big struggle, and their mind is all over the place, and they're having all these emotions, and they think about their shopping list, and they think like it's like the first time the entire day they're giving their brain some space, and the brain goes like, oh, super, I can shoot out all these ideas which I couldn't deal with before because we had to work, we had to drive, we had to take care of the kids, whatever. So bringing it back to how you put it, you said it's a practice. That's what it is. We practice meditation. I've been doing this for 30 years, and still every single day I sit down to practice, because when I get in my head and I think, ooh, I'm meditating so nicely, I'm already not meditating anymore. So it's about that repetition of practice. And what the practice does, it's a little bit like working out, when you have your weight and you're moving your arm. The daily practice of the workout is what allows your muscle to grow and get strong. And when you stop working out, guess what happens to your muscle? It just starts going back to its normal size because you stopped working it. It's the same with the meditation practice. The moment you stop your meditation practice, you might be able to coast for a couple of weeks of that, and go down, but you lose that. You lose that connection. You lose that calm. You lose that integration, that connection with being with yourself. And so it's something which you need to do every day. I mean, people like the Dalai Lama or many other spiritual leaders around the world, they sit every day for several hours because they know there is no place to get to. There is no like, oh, you did it, like you won the game, you're done with meditation. You can certainly tap on that place, and be like, oh my God, and have this kundalini rising experience, have this enlightenment, this samadhi experience. And this can last for a couple hours or even days. But if you stop your practice, you'll fall right back out of it. And that's how it's designed for all of us.
That's very, very deep what you just said. It's very powerful. And often we don't think about it like that in terms of a practice. You started to touch on this a little bit, but maybe we should just pause and back up to explore what's important about meditation. Why would we even want to begin a practice such as this?
Yeah. Meditation is a thing we as humans know since before we're born. You know, when we're in our mother's womb, we meditate. After we're born as little babies and we nurse on our mother, you can watch that baby, their little eyes roll up, they go into this deep state of meditation, they start affecting the mother starts meditating, they affect everybody in the room. It's this beautiful, powerful experience of deep, profound meditation. So every single one of us has had the experience of meditation. And if you were nursed or whatever, you still were in your mother's womb in meditation. And that is such a profound knowledge to understand that we all know how to meditate. This is not something I need to come and teach you. This is not something where you need to have the big journey to India and be enlightened and be taught on how to meditate. You know how to meditate. What I do with the people I work with, I help them get out of their own way, get out of their own understanding and their own challenges, which they have of, like we touched on a little bit, the first time they sit down in a busy day, their mind goes like 100 miles an hour and it's trying to figure everything out. But it's such a distraction. Because meditation is really when your mind can calm down and slow down and surrender. And that's why I personally like to meditate early in the morning, because I have rested, I have dreamt, my mind had time to throw out all the stuff it needed to throw out. So it's the easiest and best time before the day starts, ideally when everybody else is still asleep. So if you get up early enough, if you live in a big city, we very easily get affected by our surroundings, by our neighbors, by the people in the next house, by the sounds outside. So when it's 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, even at 6, it's still quiet enough to really go inside and connect with yourself. And so then comes the next step of the experience, which is suddenly your mind starts getting calmer. Suddenly things start to slow down. Suddenly it's not about being somewhere, doing something, stretching yourself into the future, being in the past, but you come together in the here and now, and you can really get present. And that's really what meditation comes down to. That's the starting point, to just really become present. And again, something we all knew since we were kids. And then we trained ourselves to not be present and think about our career and about our degree in 5 years from now. And sitting there thinking yeah, but in 5 years, I'm going to be better. In 20 years, when I retire, my life is going to be okay, right? So we're trained to step out of the present moment into craziness of future and past.
Absolutely. What you're saying is really, really resonating with me, because I think there's something also, and you touched on it a bit in the morning time, that we're still in a receptive mode as well.
Yes, very much. It's the perfect time to receive. It's the beginning of the day. The old things have come to an end. You're starting new. It's a little bit that new moon energy, That's why that's the perfect day to start anything new, because when the new moon starts to grow again, that's the moment when things come into motion and you can start new energies.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I just love it. And just to point out, I think that the choice is really clear, because generally when I tap in, I feel that folks have been a little bit stressed over the last couple of years. And so we have kind of actually a choice, because sometimes we get out of bed and we're like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? What do I need to do? And I got to get to work. And we start thinking the worst case scenarios. And so I like what you've just highlighted as a possibility. It's very, very beautiful.
Well, thank you. Well, that also has to do with this feeling of, I have to grab my cup of coffee and run out the door, which usually has to do with people waking up too late. Because if you need to be in the car by 7:30, but you wake up at 7, is you're going to have a stressed morning because you're going to have to get ready. You're going to have to take a shower. You have to put your makeup on, whatever you're doing. But you're going to be stressed, right? You're going to be, that's the energy you're starting your day with. And that energy gets poured in the entire day. And you feel stressed. And then suddenly you're sitting like this. It's like 9:30 at night. And you're like, oh my God, it's the first time I'm getting some time to breathe. My kids are in bed, and then people have these ideas and like, I need my glass of wine, because the only way how I can come down from being like this from the entire day is to pour in alcohol or to smoke a cigarette or do something which distract me, watch TV till 12 o'clock. And then suddenly around 12:30, you start, your vagus nerve is kicking in and your body starts relaxing. You're like, okay, I'm finally ready for bed. And then you go to bed at 12:30 and then you have a hard time falling asleep because that's it has to do with alcohol, with too much TV, with the cigarettes, whatever it is, your distraction is. And then you only end up sleeping 6 or 7 hours, which is not enough for your body to recuperate its energies. And then you fall out of bed again the next morning at 7, stressed and in a rush, right? So the whole cycle begins again. So where I always start with people who say, I don't have time to meditate, is to say, it's a very simple solution. We fix it for you. One day, only one day, wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Take care of yourself, take a shower, do whatever you need to do, make yourself a nice warm cup of tea, and then just sit down and look at the time and be like, oh my God, it's 5:25. I have so much time. And then suddenly you can relax and you're sitting there just breathing. You're sitting there doing a little stretching, doing a little yoga, doing a little something you like to do. And then you look at your clock, it's like, oh my God, it's only 6 o'clock. I have so much more time. Maybe you want to listen to a little motivational video or speech, which you always wanted to listen to. And now suddenly your energy level rises higher. And then you look at your time, it's like, oh my God, it's only 6:30. I can still do more stuff for myself. And then you do the thing you wanted to do, and you really honor yourself. And by the time it's 7 and you drink your cup of coffee and you get in the car, with a big smile on your face in a relaxed state. And now comes the important thing. So now, because you did wake up at 5 in the morning, in the evening, don't fall into the old pattern and be like, okay, where's my glass of wine? Where's my TV? How do I stay up till 12:30? Because you're going to be tired by 9 because you got up at 5, right? And by 9, you're going to be like, I'm so tired. What do I do? Then you don't drink that glass of wine. You don't drink another cup of tea and go to bed at 9:30, 10, sleep. And then something cool happens, because now the next morning, waking up at 5 is super easy because you got to sleep at 10. And now the cycle is repeatable. And so it's really easy to fix that.
That's a really welcoming strategy to I like that. It's just, it seems so simple what I asked you, and look at everything that we just uncovered. So that is a great reset. I feel it. All right. So meditation is one practice that we might want to step into. And I know that there's other spiritual momentums or other, what else could we talk about that would help us come more into consciousness or more into presence or make us have happier lives?
I think a lot of people misunderstand meditation because they see meditation and they have this Buddhist monk in a monastery sitting on his stone bench with the eyes closed, not moving for 3 hours. Sure, that's an amazing way to meditate. But that Buddhist monk had practiced for that for 40 years. So let's not get ahead of ourselves and try to start a journey at the highest level, right? It's like if you're active in sports and you want to play at the Premier League team right on the first day. No, let's learn the basics first. Let's do simple things. If you can't close your eyes, meditate with your eyes open. If, do simple things like connecting with your breath. Prepare your meditation space. Do a little bit of exercise, maybe something which gets you to sweat before. Taking a cold shower in the morning is an amazing tool. lighting a little candle, creating a little bit of a ritual around your meditation allows you to get into that space. And then do simple things. I practice kundalini yoga and meditation, so that's where my expertise is. But I do like guided meditations a lot. I like, box breathing a lot. I like all these other ways too, because I like things which make it easy for people to start a practice. And for people to really wrap their mind around and saying, like, I'm practicing. I'm not a meditator. This is something which might come, might not come. It doesn't matter. I practice. And if I practice even for 3 minutes, for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes, commit to something small and then follow up on it and practice it every day, and then amazing things happen. And it's so beautiful because you go deeper and deeper and deeper. And then you look back 2 months later and you say, oh my God, I think I'm meditating. That is crazy.
It sounds so good. I love it. And let's just keep deepening meditation. So if we just started with 10 minutes a day and we sat down, maybe we lighted a candle, we created some space, as what I hear you saying, for ourselves. And that monkey mind came up, or I was chatting to someone about meditation actually before I got on this call with you, and he said, I can't meditate. I have this, I have ADHD, or I have that. But it's funny how we put these labels and we say we can't. But we say we can, we sit down in 10 minutes and we have, we're startled by our monkey mind. What do we do?
Those are my favorite meditators, the ADHD people. I actually have,
Really?
ADHD myself, because things were just too boring. And so I always needed like 10 other distractions because I got bored of what I was doing, and then I found something else and I saw something over here. And meditation helped me a lot with finding my path and going inwards and being able to focus now and being able to stick with the process. So ADHD is not a diagnosis for the rest of your life of, oh my God, you'll never be able to focus on anything. ADHD is just like when things get boring, your mind can focus on it and comes up with 10 new ideas. So don't allow it to get boring, right? Dive deep into your identity, because there is so much there. There's so much to explore, and it will not get boring. Plus, in Kundalini Yoga, we do this thing where we have meditations which include the fingers with the mudras, or we're doing some breathing, or we do some chanting, or we use a mantra that repeats in the head, or we hold our arms up over our head, and that gets fun after like 3 minutes. You're like, oh my God, so hard. But those kinds of things are all little tips and tricks on how to keep the monkey mind busy, because you give it a job. You say, repeat this mantra, do this breath, do this posture, and suddenly your mind is like, oh my God, I need to do a posture. Oh, I need to move my fingers. And suddenly all the mind is doing its job. And I love this idea of the monkey mind, because my teacher would talk about it in the way, it's like you're driving a car, your body is the car, you're the driver, and you got this monkey mind next to you on the passenger seat, not having anything to do. And guess what that monkey's going to do in the car with you? It's going to jump over and pull on the steering wheel and do all kinds of things and mess things up, right? But now you give the monkey a job and you say, hey, monkey, here's the map. You read the map. You're in charge of the map. You keep telling me where it goes. You keep doing the mantra. You keep doing the fingers. And now suddenly your monkey mind has a job, and the monkey feels good. It's being part of the show. And now you can drive your car and really enjoy what you're doing. And this is the ultimate connection, is that you can bring that energy off your meditation mat or off your meditation practice into the world. And now suddenly, when in the world your monkey mind comes up and makes up all these things, you can be ready to just go into calm and service and be there with people in the present moment.
Wow, that's so inviting. Again, what you said, you have a very beautiful way of communicating. It's so clear. And I feel like asking you, can children meditate?
Yes, children are amazing meditators, especially the little ones. What little children like to do, I actually just made a TikTok on that like 2 days ago and posted it. But what children do is children go into this deep meditative space in a matter of seconds. They're not like us, where they have to be taking all these mudras and mantras and all these tricks to get us into deeper meditation. They are there right away. So the best way to teach little children to meditate is just meditate yourself and invite them to come sit with you. You know, when a little kid wakes up in the morning and they see you sitting and meditate, they will come over and sit in your lap. Let them sit in your lap. Even if that means you have to do the meditation a little crooked or whatever, but invite them in. You know, invite them to spend time with you in this meditation. And they'll go into this amazingly deep space, you know? They close their eyes, they might lie down, they might even fall asleep, but they understand. You don't have to tell them, oh no, this is not the time to talk to Papa or to Mama. This is the time to meditate. They get that. They realize it and it becomes part of their life. But it backfires when you say, oh, you have to sit and meditate. They're like, I don't want to meditate. I want to run around in a circle and kick my ball. Then you're very clear and say, you want to kick your ball? Kick it outside because I'm meditating here. But if you want to be here with me, which all little kids want to do, they want to be close to you, they will sit with you and meditate.
I'm glad we touched on that. I really am. You'd mentioned a little bit about Kundalini yoga and the mudras and things, but I still sense that folks might not know what is Kundalini yoga, because it's like a term we hear out in the popular culture or in spiritual circles, but sometimes we're just still feel like, what is that?
Yeah. I mean, we're living in a time now where people actually know what is yoga, right? Which was just 30 years ago. People were like, I don't know, yoga, is that voodoo practice? Where's that coming from? Even, you know, like, but people have an understanding that yoga is something where you're wearing really cute yoga clothes and you have to look really good and you do some stretching, right? That's what people imagine when they see yoga. They see some really flexible people in amazing postures, which are really strong and eat really healthy, right? But yoga is so much more. For me, yoga is a preparation for deep meditation. And what I always loved about Kundalini yoga is that it's so much more accessible. You know, you can practice Kundalini yoga if you're 5 or 50 or 85, because the exercises are super simple. You know, anyone can do it. You can grab a person off the street and practice Kundalini yoga with them. And the coolest thing of it is it's designed in such a way where it stimulates your chakras and stimulates your meridians, your energetic ways in your body, and gives you an experience in the first class. You know, like a hatha or ashtanga yoga practice or any of those, you know, yoga practices are amazing, but it takes you weeks and months and sometimes even years to get to a place where you can get a spiritual experience. Kundalini yoga is special in that way. It's kind of like the rocket ship, you know, it takes you from here to there, like right away in the first class.
Wow. I did not know that. That's amazing. What else might I discover if you were my coach and you were helping me deepen my longing to be happy or my personal spiritual quest?
Well, what I do in my coaching practice is I work with people individually and I pick them up at where they're at, right? So the first thing we do when we do a coaching call is we do a clarity call first. And that clarity call's intention for you as a possible client and for me as your possible coach is to find out, where are you at? What do you want? How much do you want what you want? And why do you want it? So we're really diving deep into the why behind it, because the why is where the energy lies. You know, if you say, oh, I want $10 million just because it's a great number and you didn't dare to say $100 million, but you don't really know why you want that in your life, you'll never get there because your system will not support that process. So what we do is when I have someone who says, I want $10 million in my life because I know what I can use these $10 million for to change the world and make it a better place by building 5 schools all around the country, that person knows why they want that money. And they can get there because they have that strong connection to the why when it gets rough. Because all of us, we have ideas. We have New Year's resolutions where we say, oh, I'm going to practice yoga every day. I'm going to go running twice a week. I'm going to only eat green vegan diet, whatever the idea is. But when it's not connected to a why, what happens after 2 weeks? It goes, wow, right? And you're right back into your old grooves, into your old challenges, and you get stuck again. So connecting to the why is the key of success. So that's the biggest part I do in the beginning of my coaching practices. And then we tie everything back to that. And we readjust things too as I go along with my clients when we say, hey, maybe the why changed? Maybe you don't want this goal anymore. You realize your real goal is somewhere else. And then we work towards that. And coaching works on building one step on top of another and having these small successes. There's this book, Atomic Habits. The guy talks about just changing your habits by 1% every day. And this exponential cumulative combination of that habit change is what changes you. I was like, oh, I could have written that book. That's exactly what I talk about. So I love it, because it's this is how it should be. We should all understand the same concepts because we're all human. All the same concepts work for all of us.
How quickly can someone change their life?
Oh, that's a very philosophical question. How quickly can someone change their life? In theory, you can change your life in the blink of an eye, right? It can be enlightenment done completely out. But that's not how it works for us as humans because we get pulled back into our own patterns. So what I have seen is people changing their life in a matter of 40 to 90 days. That's kind of the point where when you start creating new habits, right? First you break old habits, then you create new habits. That's about 40 days. And then you start integrating that new habit into your life as being part of your identity. That's where true change starts happening. And then if you can pull that through for, like I would say, even 3 years, that's when it really becomes such a deep part of your identity that you cannot even think back how it was before. So that's when the permanent change is there.
That's very interesting. And that is an excellent book that you recommended. I have not read that book, Atomic Habits. James Clear, correct?
I'm not sure, but it was super successful, like I think a year or two ago.
That in the show notes, but that's really interesting about the 3 years and to really integrate it. Do you have to embody the change for the change to manifest?
You have to live the change. You have to be part of the journey of change. And so, yes, you do have to embody it and it needs to become yours. It cannot be someone else's change. Like if you ever try to change a teenager or your spouse or your, that you cannot change other people, right? So change needs to come from within. So if you want change in your life, you need to be part of that journey and really integrate that into your physical being.
Okay, so back to meditation. Thank you for that. When we go inside and we meditate, we're kind of slowing down, right?
Yes, very much.
And becoming present. But can there be a reality where we quicken time, where time quickens, or we bend the reality of time, where there's some kind of quickening where things aren't so vibrationally dense? I just was curious.
Yes, of course, that can happen. And this is very similar to when you're dreading something and you're waiting for it and it goes longer and longer and the minutes and seconds go slower and slower. This is an experience we all have had before. This can also happen on the other side. You're having a blast, you're having fun with your friends, you're out, whatever it is, and suddenly 3 hours feel like 30 minutes just because you are so present, you're having such a good time. And so this is the same thing which happens in meditation. If you are sitting there struggling, yes, those minutes will go slowly. But if you go in deep and you really expand and you're you're connecting with your highest consciousness and everything is happening, like an hour can feel like 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm. And then we can take that out into our lives, though, as well, to experience, the shift that we want, or the changes that we want too.
Yeah, very much. And time is relative. I mean, it's really just a construct we put on our lives to kind of, be able to meet up with people. And like we said for the podcast today, we're going to be here at this time, and it works great, right? It's a great tool to have time. But time is really not part of who we are as human beings. Even the past and the future are not really part of who we are as human beings. We are just these existences in the present moment with probabilities in the future and some experiences in the past. But our expression of our being and our true self happens only in the present moment.
It only happens in the present moment?
Yes, to really be your true self, to really express who you truly are, happens in the here and now. This is not something, because what happened a year ago, that's who you were a year ago. What happens in the future, it's a probability. Who knows? That might happen, maybe something else will happen. But your true identity only is in the present moment.
So we've touched on meditation, we've touched a little bit on habit development, and I just ask you to speak to spirituality, however you feel is right for you.
Yeah. I would start with the quote I always loved a lot, is that we're not human beings having a spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. And so we're all spiritual beings, right? That's how to start with. And so that's why we are so drawn to spirituality, to religion, to all these spiritual aspects in life, because we know there's more to us than this physical body and this physical experience and, going to work and having a house and doing those kinds of things. And so for me, I always bring it back to, how do you want to express spirituality in your life? There's so many different paths. You can be expressing it in a religious way. You can express it in a very free way in connection with nature. You can express your spirituality by saying you're an atheist, and that's how you connect with your spirituality. But you do have to connect with your true being at some point, because otherwise it will just leave you disconnected. And when you're disconnected, there is just, you're just floating around and things happen to you, and there's no sense in this whole thing, which we call life, and why we're here and what we do. And then why wouldn't you go out and just party every day and get drunk and, treat people shitty and do all kinds of nasty things out in the world, because nothing matters, right? So right. I think that's where the success of religions came from over the last 3,000, 4,000 years.
How did you come to just be who you are? Like, were you always so spiritual?
I always had this very spiritual connection since I was a child, and I couldn't understand it, and I couldn't put a name to it, and I didn't know what was going on. And for me, it was really when I the first time smoked weed. That's kind of what opened my mind, because I was like, oh my God, I have this experiences out in this realm of something else, which is bigger than me, connecting with some outer body experiences. The downside was only I was stoned all the time, because I wanted to always just smoke more weed, because it was the way how I connected with spirit. And then when I found Kundalini Yoga, I was able to get those same experiences I got from smoking weed from practicing Kundalini Yoga. And I was like, oh my God, this is so much better. This is like so amazing. And so I stopped smoking weed and I started practicing Kundalini Yoga, and it allowed me to really explore that realm of spirituality and integrate that in my life.
Wow. That's very inspiring, to know that you can tap in different ways, because sometimes it's not hard to give up smoking pot. I've never smoked pot, but I've heard it's like a gateway sort of experience for some, but you can stop and you can tap in through Kundalini yoga or through meditation.
Yeah, for me, it was really like smoking pot was more available in the 80s and 90s than meditation. And so that's why I found that, in today's time, things are different. Spirituality is much more present all around us. It's much easier to learn about it. Kids can go on TikTok and learn about these kinds of things. It's not so much where you need that pathway to connect with your own spirituality. But it was different 30 years ago for me, and it was very different 200 years ago, because people didn't have the pot or the spiritual books or that connection. And so the only way how you could be spiritual 200 years ago was to go to church, because that was the most spiritual thing available. And so people would really invest into that relationship to their church, into that relationship to God through their church. Unfortunately, many of the religious leaders around the world from all the religions have not done such an amazing job to really allow people to expand and to include and to be diverse and to try new things which are more 21st century, and they're kind of stuck like 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago. So that's, I think, one of the biggest challenges religion has.
Wow. You kind of blow my mind a little bit. Like, I just literally just feel like it's really, I feel very like, I feel you.
Oh, wow.
Get usually thrown off my game that easily. So I'm sure our audience does too. And you do some amazing videos on TikTok. And how else might someone reach out to you if they wanted coaching or to see more of you or connect with you?
You can find me on Instagram, and we can put the link into the show notes too, or come to my website. I'm putting together this course, which I'm teaching next week online. Or next month actually. It's going to be a 5-day, very simple introduction into Kundalini yoga and meditation. So I'm super excited about that, because the first time I'm teaching it, but I've been getting so many questions. I've been repeating the same thing. And I was like, maybe I should just teach it, so I can say to people, come here if you want to learn about it. So that's an exciting thing, which is coming up in April. And yeah, otherwise just reach out to me. I think that's the best. And then we can see, and if the coaching is something you're interested in, we could do like a little call and explore if that's the right fit for both of us. And we'll take it from there.
And just to confirm and clarify, is your upcoming session, is that virtual? Is it on Zoom? Is it an in-person thing?
Yeah, it's going to be on Zoom, because my clients are all over the world. And so for me to do it in person here just doesn't make any sense. And so I said, we learned a great thing from COVID, which is we can do everything on Zoom. So now I'm teaching this on Zoom, and yeah, I'm excited about it because I've never done it before. So it's going to be new.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I asked. That sounds absolutely fabulous. So I encourage everyone to find out more about that, and we'll put the links in the show notes. And so I'd like to close by asking you who your mentors are or who you admire on your journey.
I had a lot of teachers and mentors during my last 30 years. And what I find is every person I have met on my journey, I was able to learn something from. Mm-hmm. And I learned a lot from kids. I love working with teenagers. I think it's so amazing to get feedback from a 15-year-old and be like, oh my God, you're right. Oops. No, like for me, that's really humbling, because it allows me to step off my high horse of, ooh, yeah, look, I got a beard and a turban. I'm 50 years old. I know what I'm talking about. But then you get like a kid, fixing you and adjusting you. Like my daughter last night, she's like, yeah, that was really not okay what you said to mom just now. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Oops, I better go say sorry, So this is the kind of stuff. And that's where I find and I had these amazing teachers, we practice yoga and I learned so much from. And I mean, I could come up with a list of 100 names, but that's really what I learned is that everybody can teach me something. And if I'm just ready to listen and I'm ready to have my eyes open and my ears open, and there's so many opportunities every day to learn and to grow.
What a beautiful way to close. Thank you so much. I want to acknowledge you and honor you and thank you for being here with me and our audience.
Oh, thank you. It was my pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in to the Healing Broken Families podcast. I'm Barbara Pointe. If you enjoyed this, please like, subscribe, show us the love. And I think it's safe to say on behalf of our guest today, Amrit, that we're wishing everyone awareness, healing, peace, galactical light, and lots of love. Until next week, I'm Barbara Pointe.
These clouds create the purest rain on earth. It falls on a remote tropical island in search of nature's best filter. Ancient volcanic rock. It's not just water. It's Fiji water.